온연번이 방산바이 연번이 breeze where the sun shines bright on Loch Lomond, where me and my true love spent many happy days. On the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond, oh, you'll take the high road and I'll take the low, and I'll be in Scotland for ye, where me and my true love will never meet again. On the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond, was there that we parted in yon shady glen, on the steep, steep sides of Ben Lomond, where in purple hue the Highland hills we view, and the moon glints out in the gloaming, where you'll take the high road and I'll take the low, and I'll be in Scotland for ye, where me and my true love will never meet again. On the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond, where wild flowers spring and the wee birdies sing, and in some joy the waters they're sleeping, but the broken heart it gets nae second spring. Though resigned we may be while we're greeting, and you'll take the high road and I'll take the low, and I'll be in Scotland for ye, where me and my true love will never meet again. On the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. That's a favorite. Love that one. Truly, truly do. I finally named these guys. This is Frank. This is Abdul. And this is Erasmus. Hey Frank, hey Abdul, hey Erasmus. Although, unfortunately, I'm probably going to be having to wipe that down. It's definitely something to do, like, Season 2, be more visual, interactive. Because I already don't, like, this is all audio. I already don't, like, put any pictures or anything or any video on the screen like a lot of other streamers, like single-person streamers do. Almost every one of them. Instead, I operate like a single-man podcast, where it's just me talking to myself. We'll figure something out. You guys deserve better than, like, me saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this and do that. But the thing is, like, I'm at my best, like a lot of people are, when I'm hungry. I need to stay hungry. And in doing that, I need to keep going with projects. Even if I struggle, even if I collapse, I need to keep getting up, keep going. And then eventually I'll have a bunch of stuff integrated into what I consider to be easy, basic, and basically an afterthought at that point. But it takes work to get to that point. So, it's as simple as that. Dems are so evil for using so many Central Americans as pawns in the immigration games. But I'm not the first person to notice this. Republicans do this with Cubans. It's the exact same thing. And a lot of these Cubans that said, yeah, come on over. You can get treated different than every other immigrant, every other person that technically breaks the law by entering into the country the specific way that I do. No, we're going to, you can look at a bunch of Reagan-era stuff, which, guess what? It's being ignored. They're sending Cubans over to CCOT. They're sending Cubans over to, I think at least one Cuban over to Guantanamo Bay. And, it's just how in the hell can you be a man and have your resume be, oh yeah, I did Chinese water torture on Nicaraguans in Guatemala? Sick freaks, man. But at the end of the day, you look at the Middle East and you go, this is actually where a lot of these people are coming from. They actively come from the Middle East. You have a lot of dual citizens, half Israeli, half American. I hate dual citizenship, by the way. I hate it. It's the most disgusting, cheap, chintzy. It goes in line with, you can't have a border if you can have multiple different countries that you're occupying at the same time when you can't. There is no border then. You're now metaphysical. You have made citizenship metaphysical as soon as you say that you can be a citizen of both countries. You can't do that. You can have a visitor worker thing going on, or you can move at a certain point and change your residency. But this dual citizenship crap is really, really poisonous. And I'd bet all the money that I have, if we got rid of dual citizenship and literally forced every single dual citizen to choose which one you're going to be loyal to, I bet you 30% of the problems in the country would disappear like that. It's important that we try to prevent people's nihilism from turning into solipsism. And I'm very happy to hear Sam Hyde has been working on this very, very diligently, actually, over the years. Everything's fake and gay and nothing ever happens, but other people are there with you in this dead gay neighbor bish of a girth, and can either be your greatest asset or your most dire liability, depending on what you choose to do. And, otherizing them, putting them into a camp, shooting them, turning them into a slave, that actually isn't how you turn somebody into an asset. Think about it. Buddhism is an example of essentially benign nihilism. If you look into Buddhism, it's basically what it is. It's the purely benign nihilism. In many cases, sometimes it can be a little malignant in some cases of Tibetan Buddhism and stuff like that, especially Western American Buddhism. Oh. But yeah, solipsism is always devoid of the light of God. There is no religion in which solipsism is a central focal point. And by the way, solipsism is, if you don't know the definition, you probably do. It's there's a guy named L50 Lastpack in chat that was a solipsist. It's where you think you're the only person whose thoughts matter. There's also a brain injury implicated mindset where you think that everybody else is legitimately an automaton or a robot or Matrix hologram, stuff like that. That comes from brain damage. There is literally a part of your brain responsible for empathy, right? So people who brag about not having empathy are literally bragging about being brain damaged tards. And I'm not joking about that. That's not something I made up. You can look into this. What brain damage causes people to think that they're the only human being on Earth? And you'll find that out very easily. But solipsism is just that in a more sophist philosophy sort of way. It's a philosophical version of I'm the only person in the world, which isn't nihilism. People always get it twisted. People always conflate nihilism with solipsism. But nihilism is very useful. It's a tool. And it's a tool of just flipping off a switch and all of a sudden you're not focusing on that particular issue You know, you can be nihilistic towards a particular issue while being dedicated towards another, and that's just being focused. In fact, a lot of people who are autistic, you know, this is a wide spectrum, legitimately a wide spectrum of things that are not autism that is stuck together under the umbrella autism. But there are a lot of people who are autistic that are nihilistic towards certain things and then hyper specialized towards other. That's called savantism. Anyways, I think Bossman's parents should be like ambassadors to the UN, right? They have the patience of saints. And like, I don't know if Bossman's gonna end up getting out from the looks of it. Apparently he's got 2 different things going on. One of them is pretty much cleared with 2 years probation. The other one's still hanging over his head like a sword of Damocles. It's a cool term. Nice little term. Yeah. Let me explain in the briefest way as I can why rationalism is a deeply flawed philosophy. First off, it's a red herring. It says it is a rational philosophy, which leads us to believe that it's concrete, that it's exact, and that it's universally true. That's not at all what the rational in rationalism actually means. What it truly is a rationing of your attention and faith, which is one of the reasons why there could be, quite literally, socially induced autism based on the fact that there's so much stuff out there that like you really shouldn't care about, and there's stuff with so much aura and energy poured into it that you shouldn't care about that everybody does care about. And so people get to pick and choose in this toolbox, you know, this materialosophy, what they want their life to be all about, what they want to dream about, what they want to integrate into their existence. Like kids are integrating AI chatbots into their existences, and it's making some of them kill themselves because they want to go to the place where the AI is, which is essentially metaphysical. So, yeah. It's very important to zero in, to put rationalism in the scope. Because rationalism is the root of the Enlightenment, which is the root of liberalism, which is the root of modernism, which is the root of communism, capitalism, and socialism, which is the root of postmodernism, the interplay between those 3 things. So literally at the very base of it all is rationalism. Now you just heard me explain part of rationalism, what makes it flawed, but you might have already actually heard on this podcast why rationalism is deeply, deeply flawed. It has to do with the old conceptualization of the left brain and the right brain, right? So let me just get through my notes, and then if I don't have that down here, I'll get into it real quick. So it is a way of preserving your trust in unseen mechanisms, such as germs in the 1600s. In order to trust other technically equally irrational issues, such as economy and democracy, completely irrational, imaginary, made up, completely made up. A lot of people, especially with the Rick and Morty, you know, we changed the 1 to a 0, now everything collapsed. That literally did. It's like the first time you hear that the sun's going to explode one day. That'll like flip a switch in somebody's brain. People know, yeah, our fiat money that's not backed by gold or silver, worthless, and it is the blood of our entire economy. And so economics in general is a shell game, and everybody knows this by now. Literally, like, you just companies aren't even like hiding that they're shell games anymore. They used to back in the 80s, 70s. They used to have to. Now they don't. Rationalism even goes so far as to forcibly remove Christ from the phrasing of the common era, despite it is both scientifically and historically solid, so it can divert your faith away from theological and into purely chemical and material, while downplaying theological interplay with emotions, neurochemistry, and the very real and rational decisions people make, both individually and communally. This is very basic application of apologetics, pretty succinctly encapsulating these issues manifesting from liberal modernism despite its science. So, to get into that left brain, right thing, rationalism is your left brain. It says math is the only thing in the universe. And because math is the only thing in the universe, everything can be boiled down to numbers and calculations. This might be technically true, but every single one of those calculations, every single one of those slopes, every single line drawn by a human being is imaginary. Every bit of it. So the old school conceptualization of the left brain would be, it is very mathematical, it's very scientific, it's very orderly, everything is perfectly in squares, and it focuses more on the past than the present and the future. It is less accurate than your intuitive brain. Even very intelligent people, doctors, scientists, all sorts of, and going back to the holy men of ancient times, all have known that the part of your brain that focuses on the right now and the immediate future, if you completely put your dopamine centers aside, which was probably very hard to do in ancient people when they probably used drugs, until things like Buddhism and Christianity allowed people to use lifestyle and other physical mechanisms outside of drugs in order to put yourself in that position. But to downplay all your dopamine and to focus entirely on the here and now and ground yourself, that and to literally have the brain of a deer allows you to survive. And that is literally our survival mechanism. That is the thing that can't be spoken but is inherently known, intuited, right? And so your intuition, your old conceptualization, this is antiquated, this doesn't actually hold up, but your right side of the brain, we know it's now compartmentalized, but your right side of the brain focuses on emotions and intuitions, and instead of making stuff up, it feels stuff, and therefore it is the more accurate whisker. Say one whisker is going out this way, the other whisker is going out that way. This whisker only picks up things from inside of me. This whisker only picks up things from outside of me. It's funny that the whisker that only picks up things from inside of you actually ends up being the being the more accurate, grounded one, because you're the one who's making the judgments. You're the one whose eyes you're looking out of right now. Anyways, yeah. Let me go over to the difference between gnosis, where the term Gnostic comes from, and kenosis. Gnosis, Gnosis, is the lie that you can know God in this life. Anyone who has ever done one high-intensity psychedelic, not MDMA, not ketamine, but something like LSD, DMT, shrooms, peyote, something like that, will know that if they took a very high dose, will know that they felt something approaching God in the moment. But as soon as they settled back into their bodies, after the trip started to, or at least come off of the peak, it slipped from them. It's like a dream. You wake up, it's amazing, fantastic. Oh my gosh, it's like I was at God mode and no clip on in a video game and like lucid dreaming and stuff like that. And you wake up and it's all flooding from you, right? And when you die, DMT is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, it's very, very basic for people to understand that with a dream analogy, but kenosis, Kenosis, is the emptying of oneself to allow you to be graciously filled with the things of God. This is true knowing. This is truly knowing God. And in this way, this is also the right brain manifesting, compared to the left brain of, I know it already, watch me draw a bunch of lines, and then I'll lie to myself and then be right. Right? So this is the funny thing about, like, in memes and stuff like that, they'll tell you, I'm an empath. I've already decided what you feel, and I'm going to assume that. Literally the opposite of empathy. I don't know how to fix that. It's just, the internet attaches a bunch of people, and, a lot of the things that ends up getting promoted by the algorithms coming out of Silicon Valley, coming out of Tel Aviv, end up being things that are bad for people's psyche. If you're truly empathetic, deeply, truly empathetic, and not just sympathetic or literally lying and projecting whatever whatever cooked up emotions that you have that you think they're, if you have genuine empathy, you are in many ways approaching Christ, approaching a prophet that not only can see through you, through your conscious deep into your soul, but also can effectively read the future. And this is why I say right now and slightly into the future. This is where prophetic intuition comes from, is that right, old school right conception. Whatever compartment of the brain is responsible for empathy is responsible for genuine foresight, psychic level foresight. I'm not joking about that, for real. So I feel even less bad for Rekieta after finding out that he had DMT and didn't even use it. What a retard. He could have fixed so many of his problems. He could have fixed so many of his problems from his alcoholic times if he had just done that. If he had just had somebody that he trusted. See, this is the problem with Rekieta, is he couldn't trust anybody to not rob him or hurt him or collect compromising information about him when he's in his 15-minute trip. He literally needs somebody that he trusts implicitly, that he trusts with his life, that he can hand over, and I don't think he had any of those people, so he can never do his DMT. Trust me, there's so many people that I can literally point to and go, that person's life was changed when they did a medium-level DMT trip. Their life was permanently changed for the better. They're smarter, they're more well-composed, and they have more charisma, and, it's... DMT is the most natural drug, right? It goes even deeper than your regular centers, and it hits you in a part of your brain that is alike to dreaming. And I very rarely ever hear anybody having nightmares from DMT, right? It is literally a super high intensity level dreaming. And what it does is it resets a lot of your other more higher up switches. It resets them. Anyways, screw Rekieta, man. From the sounds of it, oh my god, those poor kids. Rekieta should legitimately be slapped in the face every single day for the next 10 years. And then, continue to be a father. Literally, he needs to be slapped every day in the face, hard, for 10 years. Then maybe I won't feel so revolted by him and the way that he allowed his children to grow up in this nightmare. Stinky, itchy, bugs everywhere, smelly, rotted food, starving, even though it was rotted. God only knows what could have went down the line if it continued like that. Oh. Anyways. I think the fact that I didn't see the picture of Trump sitting down with the Taliban until he was out of office is very telling. Trump is brave enough and smart enough to sit down with both world leaders and the leaders of various factions, from Hamas to the Houthis to the Lebanese to Iran to the Taliban, etc., etc., etc. After watching Iran's restraint over the last decade, I have been convinced of some level of justness and patience that dwells in at least Shia Islam. I can't say nothing about Sunni Islam. I don't care what you have to say about Qatar. I don't care what you have to say about Saudi Arabia. I don't have a lot of good to say about Sunni Islam. Okay? It's just I don't have a lot of good to say about Calvinism. Point blank, period. Even in their best moments, Calvinists are still creeps. Sorry. It really is. Most of the ones that are the more honest Calvinists just became atheists because it is such a inverted lie that they're living. I think what finally tipped the scales on Israel was attacking Miss Rachel. You claim to be matriarchal while you attack the spirit of motherhood personified in the modern world? The pro-gay, pro-liberal shtick was played out when Iron Sword started. That's the October 7th genocide of the Gazans. Iron Swords. But there was still an energy of Israel is protecting its babies. Israel is protecting its babies, right? They canceled out the same Palestinian ideation, you shouldn't have started this war, we're trying to protect our babies, right? But I noted a few episodes ago that the mask started to slip, and they started to call for the destruction of children and babies for the crime of October 7th. Now, a lot of those babies weren't even born. Some of these are like 2-year-old, 1-year-old babies. So that's insane. I think that's actually a direct response to the dam breaking in regards to Miss Rachel. Like, the Miss Rachel stuff legitimately happened a few weeks ago. I think the dam broke in the last few weeks as things finally started to like circulate. It's okay to say that Israel's committing a genocide now, even around older people, because they can recognize, they can intuit in their souls, even if their rational minds are lying to them. They can intuit in their soul, because Israelis are really, really good at playing on rationalism. I can feel in their soul that things have gotten way off the rails. Way off the rails. Tens of millions of people were turned by Israel attacking her for praying for the innocent babies in Gaza. And so the new talking point is, the babies are guilty, and guess what? Everybody gets a little uneasy at that proposal. Everyone. You know, Miss Rachel's so sweet. She had this little, I was crying. There's this little W amputee Palestinian baby dancing, singing little baby songs. Bye. I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. If you're afraid of a baby while sitting behind nukes, you're a pussy! And for that matter, others are starting to notice the Jew-Thulu effect. The, I'm the most liberal person you'll meet. I'm a certified university intellectual. I think we should drop 40 nukes on civilian areas. Please send this to him, by the way, if you can. I'd really appreciate that. If an idiot like me can figure him out, God's got his number for sure. I actually sat my white ass down and listened when a Jewish person was speaking. And I know they're big on the Astarte to Esther, aspect of femininity personified. I wouldn't be surprised if their birth rate is actively dropping as we speak due to the instinctual revulsion of the feminine archetype in Israeli women. I think it's important to note the coinciding events of the collapse of Christendom with its central support beam to either emulate or try to protest in a more pure way against, in the cases of Reformed Christianity, and the collapse of both natural and social ecosystems. It's entirely possible, and even likely, that an apocalypse could have visited humanity 1,000 or 1,500 years ago, the same as it had visited Sodom and Gomorrah. And the immense power, the incredibly important self-sacrifice of Christ had fought back the psychological and preternatural forces that would have driven humanity to self-destruction. But now, the aggrieved Masons, the scheming Zionists, and the well-meaning but misled Protestants have undermined that sacrifice, whether through great strides or little movements, compromising an important scaffold humanity has grown over and needs. It's clear that Zionism is suicidal, and Freemasons, time and time again, instead of accepting their roles as literal, written in blood, pawns of Satan, as is their liturgy, they just ignore the preternatural and supernatural, ascribe it all to role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons, and turn into the dullest eyes humanity has ever spawned, with no light in them. And still they're going to hell when they die, forever. All while their leaders' souls are still pledged to Satan in their 33rd degree ritual. I think all of this must be noted. It must be noted that the Protestants meant well, and that the parasites that call themselves Zionists cannot survive without a host body. They are too weak and reviled by general humanity, and one of the biggest shows of their weakness is the fear they have of literal babies growing up and attacking them one day. They're babies. It's something all of humanity has always had to deal with. It's just like, do we go and kill every man, woman, and child, or do we do legal war, setting men against men, and then sue for peace afterwards? But it just goes to show, this is a structure forged in Christendom. It's a structure forged in Christendom. And that's exactly why you see Chinese history 100 trillion dead. But there's interesting other things to say. This is one theory. Another theory is that the Ion of Christ, or the Eon of Christ, was meant to last 1,000 years, for the Ion of the Antichrist reign for another 1,000 years. 1,000 to 2,000. Which would explain Jewish infiltration and Viking raids, modernity, liberalism, Freemasonry, culminating with science, sacrificing millions of men to mustard gas, firebomb, and Maxim gun, and eventually the nuke. And that this next conjunction of zodiacal forces is then to enter an era of liquefaction, where all of humanity's accomplishments are to be alchemically boiled down and extracted, with the elements and our own usage of them being mastered before an era of solar conquest, i.e. interplanetary travel. This is actually very important and well trod over suspicion. It's important for understanding why the Nazis had a 1,000-year plan and were so focused on space, and what their concentration camps were actually for. Experimenting with new methods of extraction while liquidating the previous manpower of northern Germany and western Poland that were replaced by new mechanical devices. The Luddite in me starts to get a little red. I personally think this is cooked up by alchemists and pasted over reality, but you'd be lying to yourself if you said the chemistry and engineering fields haven't dictated world events in the recent decades. Libertarians be like, what if I don't render under Caesar what is Caesar's a woo? I think I'm gonna spend a little bit more time absorbing lectures and the sort instead of political events. Ugh. If the political event corresponds with a deeper theme, then fine, but I'm not joking when I say I hate easily dated politics. Oh, before I go, I'm gonna tell you a little story. I went over to Cocoa Village and I met a cat and I pet it for 40 minutes. Came back to home, I noticed the kitty was skinny, noticed their water bowl was empty, go back, get a thing of tuna, get a bottle of water, feed the cat. Driving back home, accidentally go up a wrong way. Wrong way, whoops. Blue lights flash. Whoop, whoop. A nice Hispanic man pulls me over. Naturally, I say, yes, sir, I apologize, sir. I just fed a kitty, though. I gave him tuna, and I gave him some filtered water. You could probably still smell it on me. And so, the cop pulled out a scale, and he pulled out a feather, and he put the feather on the scale, and he said, give me your heart. And he put my heart on the scale, and he's just like, okay, you're good to go. It was because I fed the kitty. If I hadn't fed the kitty, probably would have been a very expensive night. All right, y'all. Everybody has a great week. Stays warm, dry, happy, healthy, full, and takes it easy, but keeps it pushing. All right, y'all. Cheers.